Well, if you're looking to get in the best shape of your life, change your mindset, amongst other things, I've got the guy for you today, Mr. Wade Houston. Wade, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And I have to start off and say I'm jealous with your background versus where my background. So where are you from, or where are you living right now?
So I live in Miami Beach, facing downtown Miami. So it's the Bay Side. So I get to overlook Star Island, Palm, Hibiscus, the Venetian Islands, and really, in my opinion, it's the best area of Miami.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just there a couple weeks ago. I was telling you before we started recording at a mastermind, and that wasn't the I guess the Miami that I thought. I grew up watching Miami Vice and seeing Crockett and Tubbs and always kind of in the downtown crime areas and in kind of a seedy areas of town, and then you get out and you see that it's a beautiful place with a lot of up and coming people, entrepreneurs. Is that kind of what you're finding?
Oh man, it's been, I moved here January of 2019, and I had spent the 5 winters here before that. I've seen Miami over the past 10 years go through some incredible changes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like you said, you have a different conception. My my conception vacationing down here was drastically different on the sand and with the tourism versus coming to live here. And when I first moved down, it's definitely a humbling experience because there's a lot of international money here. There's a lot of the world's money, but it was also an entertainment place where many of the high income earners love to really flash their money, and it seemed superficial and it seemed sort of seclusionary to me. Once COVID happened, many entrepreneurs, financiers, tech company owners, people who had exits moved down here for tax advantage, the openness of COVID, some of the political viewpoints. And this became a haven for entrepreneurs, finance, tech, entrepreneurship. And it's become a super abundant, super inclusive place with some incredibly well-rounded, like-minded people. In my opinion, it's the best place in the United States right now to foster development personally, professionally, financially.
Yeah, there's a guy, I can't recall his name, but I've watched some of his YouTube videos, and he's a young guy. He goes around asking like people how they made their money.
Yeah.
And one of them, he was in Miami, and I was blown away at just the type of people that live there, but more importantly, like how open they are to like sharing. Because a lot of times people come up to you, hey man, how did you make money driving that car? Or how did you have this house? Or like, get away from me. Who are you? But they were just like, yeah, I did this and this. Or so is that kind of the type of people that you're being able to network with there?
Yeah, exactly. That sums it up so perfectly, that type of person could come up to very wealthy, accomplished people other places in the United States, and they would be closed-minded and unwilling to tell about how they did it. But down here, it's like, hey, let's all get it together, and I'm happy and to share freely how I did it and what I do.
So leading with that, tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of, and I've heard your story a little bit on some different podcasts, but you kind of have an incredible story of where you started and where you are now. So people don't know who Wade Houston is, who you were, kind of growing up, or what are some of the trials and issues that you had facing you before you moved to Miami?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Vermont, which is drastically different than Miami. It's probably one of the least ethnically diverse places in the United States. The political system is very different compared to down here in Miami and Florida. It's a place where people hide their wealth, and there's not a ton of business opportunity in that area. A gorgeous place. I mean, I grew up on Lake Champlain. I had just a lovely upbringing. Played hockey and football. Those were my two main sports. I
So
ended up getting
what's the ski resort there?
there's several, but Stowe is my home mountain. There's Okemo, Mount Snow.
Okemo. Yeah, I hiked in Okemo. A friend of mine lives in Connecticut, and he has a home, a condo in Okemo, and we hiked there last summer, and that's beautiful up there.
Gorgeous. Yeah, that's Okemo's a little bit further south from where I grew up, so it's perfect for anybody from Connecticut, Massachusetts, those areas. It's only like an hour
Yeah,
and a half, 2 hours away.
awesome.
Yeah, so grew up there, and you know, sustained some injuries playing sports, ended up getting prescribed painkillers, and ended up getting addicted to Oxycontin. Overcame that addiction when I was 23. You know, ended up going to rehab for that. Had a lot of battles when I was younger with drugs and alcohol. You know, I ended up quitting drinking when I was 24. And so I started on a path from there in finance. I studied finance and accounting and banking. I managed a bank. I had accounting jobs. I became a financial advisor. And I spent a lot of time down here in Miami in the wintertime because I didn't like the Vermont winters. It was just too cold for me. And, you know, I had the stereotypical Miami life down here, you know, the renting fast cars and staying at the one hotel and going out to the club and just partying, you know, just kind of wasting my 20s away. And I had the bright idea that I was going to move down here. So I moved down here when I was 31 in 2019. And I moved down here and I hit rock bottom in about 4 months. It was crazy.
Hmm.
You know, just out every night, out at the club. All my friends were coming and visiting, and I was spending every single night and all my money on foolish things. And so eventually I hit rock bottom when I was down here. I just woke up one day and was like, wow, this is really what my life has come to. I'm wasting my life away by partying and not developing. And, you know, I would say, quite the skill set from a, you know, GPA and SAT perspective, and some from my education. And I just felt like I was really wasting it. And at the time I was doing nothing with my life. I was selling cars, you know, and no knock on that. I didn't like it. I just was kind of lost. And May 6th of 2019, I made a complete change. I was so bankrupt spiritually, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, that I just said, I'm just going to make a change. And I did. And I started working with a mentor. I started reading a lot. You know, I started meditating. I developed a spiritual practice. I started spending a lot of time with my mentor one-on-one. I started learning about business in a dynamic way. So instead of just having static information from YouTube or books, I was able to get information from him as it applied to my situation at that time. And I went through a lot of exercises of reflection to figure out what my purpose was and what I wanted to do. And so through this journey, I ended up starting a financial technologies company with a woman, and then COVID happens. And when COVID happened, the government forgave loan interest. They extended forbearance. And the solution that we had created was a way for a consumer to rearrange and renegotiate their bad debt. So if they were 3, 4, 5, 6 months late on a credit card or an auto payment, and that went to a collection agency, instead of talking to the collection agent or having to go to court to have, you know, a process on them, a judgment, they could rearrange and renegotiate through the app. So we were in talks with MasterCard, and then COVID happens and the government extends forbearance. Now there's no need for the app anymore because no one has to pay back their bad debt. So we folded. So here I am again at the beginning of COVID, like, what am I doing? You know, I was really unsure. And so I dug in, spent a lot of time with my mentor. I spent 2 months in deep meditation, reflection, and just personal development. It became ultra disciplined in every single way. I started really analyzing every input that I had into my brain, information, you know, food, everything, exercise. I end up becoming a sales manager at a hormone clinic through a chance. And that goes incredibly well. We scale from 4 million to 11 million in a year and a half. I spend every waking moment learning about health, functional medicine, you know, stem cells, peptides, testosterone, marketing, sales, business operations, culture, and we create this amazing company.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result of this, somebody had left, one of my employees left and went to work with this guy named Gary Brecka, who's a part of 10X Health. And at that time, Grant Cardone had just acquired Gary Brecka's Streamline Medical and created 10X Health. And they needed somebody to kind of help them, you know, bridge the gap and mix medicine and business together. And so they end up hearing what I had just done at this hormone clinic. They give me a call and say, hey, we'd love to meet you. 2 weeks later, I was the president of 10X Health. I left the company that I was at, And then we bought the company I had just built before that, as a foundation to be able to plug into 10x Health and scale from there. And then we scaled like crazy. We were up almost 600% in the 9 months that I was at 10x Health. It was just an incredible journey working one-on-one with Gary Brecka, with Brandon Dawson.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much about medicine and business structure, employees, and culture. And then I ended up leaving, and I, I'm really not an employee. I wanted to be my own boss, and so I formed a healthcare consultancy and started consulting for functional medicine clinics. And then again, I found myself saying, hey, I don't know if this is my purpose. And I spent a lot of time in reflection, a lot of time with my mentor, and a lot of time in prayer. And I finally realized that all my pain and all my struggle and my growth, my literally living a second life, right? I wasted basically all of my 20s up until I was 30 years old, and then made this change, and then did a complete 180 and changed my entire trajectory, health, physique, mindset, money, business, and ability to help people. And I was like, why, I should be coaching. And then I met Wes, and he was like, I don't know why you're not coaching. And I said, well, I don't know how. I have fear. I don't want to hold the video and make selfie videos. Like, this isn't my wheelhouse, man. You can look at my Instagram. I post sunsets and surf pictures. I'm not a social media guy. And he said to me, based on your story and how much you've overcome, it sounds to me like you're just being selfish by not helping other people overcome the same issues. And it just struck me, like a million bricks hitting me at the same time. And that was the moment I decided to work with him and develop my coaching. And here we are today. I have 64 clients in about 3.5 months in, and I feel like I found my purpose.
It's awesome. You do like one-on-one or group coaching, or what type of coaching do you do?
Yeah, I do both. So I have a group program. It's a fitness, nutrition, mindset, where I help people really overcome any issues that they're looking to overcome that can be solved through better discipline, through change in mindset, and as fitness and nutrition can solve a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a one-on-one program. Everybody's one-on-one's different. I think people are attracted to a mentor or a coach based on the specific experience and knowledge they have. Mine has been very quickly going from a sales guy to the president to starting my own companies. And so a lot of my one-on-one clients want, business advice in structuring companies, entrepreneurship, how to elevate from sales to executive or entrepreneur, how to create a side hustle, as well as mindset and discipline.
So you talked several times about finding a mentor. Um, number one, how did you find one? And then number two, how important is that for people to get where they want in life?
Steve Zuckerman is my mentor, and he has completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. There is zero doubt in my mind I would not be here today in this position if it weren't for him. I got really lucky that I get introduced to him through friends, and we started talking about many different things, and it was incredible how similar of a journey we had and how connected we were on many issues. I also really revered him for these reasons. I don't think picking a mentor, an overall mentor, I think is really important to be aligned with everything that they stand for. Like, picking a coach to teach you social media or a coach to teach you finance, like, that's great. You can get, and I've gotten knowledge from people in many different areas, and I've paid people to coach me in nutrition, fitness, social media, personal branding, and that's awesome. But this, Steve, my well-rounded mentor, I just really admired him. I admired what he had done in business, how altruistic he is, his spiritual practice, his mindset, his love for meditation, stoicism, his belief in life, how to derive happiness internally rather than externally. The way that he was with his family, how he's created an unbelievable family, an unbelievable culture. He's on the board of a couple of Fortune 500 companies, very, very well established, and had a very difficult past that, he overcame these issues. And so he kind of just understood me as a person. And we just have a lot of the same interests as well. And so for me, I would have never gone from a sales guy to the president, of 10X Health in a year and a half if I hadn't every single week got to bounce these questions off him. He showed me how to move up, what skills I needed. He gave me feedback. He helped me negotiate contracts. He helped me understand where my leverage was. Everything. It's unbelievable.
So if somebody that it's kind of maybe not they're lost, but people that are maybe they're in a profession they may or may not like, they're in a job they may or not like, or maybe they're kind of happy, but they're like, you know what? I just feel like I have more to give. I just feel like there's got to be more out there. Okay. For that type of person that says, okay, Wade, I I think I would like to try to find a mentor or whatever. How would they go about approaching that, or finding one? What are your recommendations?
Well, the first thing I would define is, what do you admire in somebody else and what do you want, right? I think everybody's different. Like
Hmm.
I really admired somebody who grew companies and exited companies, who understood mergers and acquisitions, who financially had done very well, but
Hmm.
who also wasn't, completely obsessed with money being the only thing that provided happiness. Someone that understood, what I had come to understand through some of these Stoic teachings. So identifying what it is that you like and what kind of people you like, what characteristic traits. And then nowadays, luckily enough, on social media we can see a lot of different people and their personalities, and find somebody either through social media or through connections. Start networking and connecting with people personally on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Start to get to know people and see who you like and what they've done. And when you find somebody who has what you want, see if they'll work with you, and pay them. What I've found is, it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're lost, or if you're an executive who's ascending, or you're an entrepreneur who just feels like he could do better. Your level of personal development, or the amount of coaching that you accept, is totally predicated on how willing you are to suppress your ego, right? If your ego is so big that you can't accept help, you will stay stuck forever. And that's it. That's all I did, was suppress my ego and say, oh yeah, I don't know everything. I should find help. And when I found someone that I vibed with, who had been successful, I did everything he said. He said, meet at my house at 7 a.m. every Saturday morning. I said, I'll be there. I never missed one.
What really opened my eyes was, growing up, one of my heroes was Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Last Dance documentary came out, I was like, you would watch him play and you're just like, okay, the dude's just a great ball player. But I had no idea like how much he practiced, and just his mindset, and just all of he just his I loved how his teammates hated him, but yet they loved him. They hated him because he just drove them like. But what really amazed me was he had this coach. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, Michael Jordan. I'm not talking about the head coach. I'm talking about a personal coach like Tim Grover. And I wound up reading his book and stuff. So that really got me to start thinking, it doesn't matter how good you are. Like that, I mean, to me, he's the best basketball player ever.
Mm-hmm.
He still had a coach himself. And then when you're talking about, getting coached in fitness or finance and things like that. So that, to me, that's what really changed. Because when we get out of, this is kind of our mindset. We get out of dental school or medical school, or if you're in law school, the last thing you want to do is more school. I went to school till I was 30. And
Right.
then so when we get out, we got all this debt, and we're like, man, the only education that I want to go to now, they make you do like continuing education and so many hours to keep your license. And that's probably 95% of what most professionals do, is just they do that just to quote keep their license up every year.
Right.
And I was so closed-minded on that, and I was all these years, 10, 15 years, I was only going to these meetings because I had to most of the time, and I was around all these other people the same thing, and there was just no growth there. And once I like ventured out into something totally different, once I started learning about real estate and entrepreneurship, then I'm around all these other people that it's just man, it's just like a whole new world out there, kind of like when you went from Vermont to Miami. So how important is it for somebody to get, to get some type of coaching, and how do they go about that process of just starting it if it's new to them?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said is the law of exposure, right? Once we become exposed to different thinkers, different mindsets, different, types of professions and opportunities, we can never become unexposed. The easiest way is when you find, I mean, at least for me, when I found someone online, like when I found Wes, I was like, up, I didn't even question anything. I just said, I like what this guy teaches. I like his message. I like what he's about.
You're
I like
talking about Wes Watson. Some people may not know who
yeah,
you're talking about.
yeah. Wes Watson. I just said, look, I'm just going to pay this guy. I don't care what, and this is a lot of people's problems is like, well, is this the perfect fit for me? Is this the right fit for me? It's like, I turned a $7,500 investment into 78K in 3 months. And I didn't question a single thing that the guy said. I just knew that he was accomplished and I liked his message and I was going to work with him. And a lot of people are just fearful. I think they're fearful of money, of investing in themselves. And once you're free of the burden of that scarcity mindset and letting go of your money, it's like people have spent $7,500 during their lifetime on really dumb things that are not contributing to the skills and assets that will optimize their return on investment. So when you find someone, just pay to get in the room, just like you did, like, hey, look, go to the mastermind, get around these people. And going to a mastermind is amazing because you start to network with these other people. I just had a mastermind and we had 18 people there.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of a one-day mastermind, 3 of the clients that attended are already doing business together. They've formed partnerships and are vendors of each other after one day. Not to mention like all the networking that they have. And I always tell people this, look, your net worth is your network. And so if you go to a mastermind and there's other people that are at your income level or your growth minded perspective, you immediately have a bag of 8, 15, 18, 20 people that you can leverage for reciprocation. And this is what I think people miss. When people ask me, like, how do I network? How do I get around these people? It's like, look, I want you to understand something. One, you can pay to get in the room. But before you do that, you need to become somebody who has skills that you can provide value to other people or connections. You need to understand how to be a value add person. And so when you go to a mastermind and you all of a sudden have 18 people and someone says, hey, do you know a real estate broker in Florida? Oh, yeah, this guy right over here. Hey, do you know a periodontist? Yep, Dr. Jeff right here. Do you know? And all of a sudden it's like, I can reciprocate value to people based on the network that I've built.
It's funny that well, it's not funny, but it's kind of unique that you say that because, you probably have people around you that are just always takers, and like the person's texting you or calling you, you're like, hey, wonder what that dude wants now, right? So, I've been around that, and I admit I've done that a good bit in my life, but once I've been around more successful people like you're talking about, and how to, how they're teaching you is there's some groups that I'm in, they're like, hey, look, you cannot get into this group unless every time you come to a meeting or a Zoom call, whatever, you have to provide value first. You can't ask for help, you can't whatever. So I paid for a 1 hour call with Brad Lee about a month ago, and it was expensive.
How'd it go?
And what's that?
How'd it go?
Awesome. Um,
I love
it,
Bradley.
it was great. So, but I started, I didn't really know much about him, so I started kind of looking at his website and stuff. So the way that I got started with everything is basically I taught myself how to blog. I'm a redneck from Louisiana. I didn't know how to do anything, but I just learned how to do it. It was like everything was online for free. I'd never written before. So now I've gotten the process of where I know how to figure out what to write about, keyword research. I can use AI now, which I wasn't back then, but now I can figure out how to write an article and make it rank on page 1 of Google pretty regularly. That's a skill set that I learned.
Amazing.
So when I started looking at Brad's stuff, he's got all these, 1 million followers on Instagram, all these, I don't know, 400 or 500,000 YouTube subscribers. So then I looked at his website and I put it into my software, and it was just like he wasn't getting any like nobody was coming to his website just from Google serving him up. So we started on the call, and I started talking. So like that's like the first thing. I was just kind of naturally like, "Hey, what can you do for me?" I was kind of like, "Hey, Brad, and I just kind of explained to him a little bit what I just talked to you about, and I was just this and that, and I looked up, and I've been talking for like 10 minutes. He's like, "Well, look, you didn't pay me all this money to sit here and tell me to help me." I was like, "Well, you know, I was just seeing what I could do, or I was just seeing some opportunity that you're missing out on." So we didn't really say much about it after that. So then we went through our call. So at the end of the call, he was like, "Man, I really appreciate you." And I didn't ask for anything. He's like, "Look, I really appreciate, you helping me, whatever. We've kind of run over a little bit of hours." Said, "Tell you what," he's like, "You have my email address?" Like, "Yeah, I got your email address." You got my cell number?" It's like, "No." He's like, "Let me give you my cell number. Look, text me anytime. And look, I tell you what, I'll hook up with my assistant Maria, email her, and I want to do a whole nother call for you. I won't charge you anything."
Wow, that's amazing. Look at that. That
And
is
it's just from what you talked about. It's just from because everybody out there has, whether they know it or not, they have some sort of value that they could provide, right? With anything, I mean, you could
anything.
probably start a whole business about how people can get sober or addicted to killers or whatever, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people miss that is everyone has value they can provide to somebody else. If a person has solved a problem, one problem in their life, they can then deliver value to other people about that problem that they solved. It's right. It's that easy. You solved this problem of blogging for yourself, and look at what this is doing for you.
I mean, you could literally take something that you've overcome and start a business around it if you wanted to.
100%.
I mean, it's insane what you can do now.
It's really the best way to do it because then you're going to have passion and direct experience about this thing. So you understand the pain of the problem that you had. You understand what other people are going through mentally, psychologically, and then you have the solution that you've solved for yourself. You just deliver that to other people.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about like networking and stuff. So I have a quick funny story for you. So I have a 16 and an 18-year-old, and I'm always trying to expose them to entrepreneurship and, real estate stuff that I'm doing. Not forcing it to them, but I just want to show them there's another option besides just going to school your whole life like their dad did. So we were going down to an LSU game about a month ago, and my 16-year-old had his friend with him, and I said, "Hey guys, I want you." I'm driving, and I gave him my phone. I was like, "I want y'all to watch this YouTube video of this guy. He's like 20 something years old. He he was another. It was a different guy, but he goes around and he asks people, 'Hey, how'd you become a millionaire? Or how did you get this or that?' Totally different person than the first guy we're talking about. So this guy was interviewing teenagers that were millionaires. So they watched it was like 12 minutes long, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's cool that guy's 15 and he's doing this, and that guy's 18, whatever." So, I go to the mastermind in Miami, like, 3 weeks ago, and then we get on that yacht and stuff, and I'm, looking at the people, I'm like, "Damn, that dude looks familiar." And
No way.
I pull up on my phone, it's that guy,
Wow.
Jordan Welch, that,
No way.
and it's like, I mean, what are the coincidences that, and I told him that story. He's like, "That's so cool." So I sat down with him and we recorded like a 2-minute video. I kind of put it on YouTube and stuff, but it was just like, that's just insane. Once you get around, it's almost like really a lot of the successful people, there's not a ton of groups, or they're kind of all going in kind of the same circle. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't state that any more
They're
correctly
all
than
in
that.
Miami.
It's like it's crazy, like the people I say, "Oh, it's a small world," and I say it's a small world at the top,
Yeah.
and that's it. Everyone knows each other at the top, or at least those that are ascending.
So tell me a little bit more about when you were the 10x health and all, and some of the different things that you're doing, because I'm approaching 50, and I'm paying more attention to my health, and I know that's a huge industry. So what were some of the things that y'all were doing that you thought was kind of groundbreaking?
Yeah, so and prior to this, I had worked at a company called Health Gains, and I had consulted for many functional doctors around the country, hormone doctors and naturopathic doctors, homeopathic. And so I've seen a broad scope of what a provider looks at when they're looking at blood labs and genetics and so forth. 10x Health, what sets them apart is that Gary Brecka is the chief biologist, human biologist, and he spent 25 years as an actuary predicting death for insurance companies. So he had the lens and the data of looking at people's blood and genetic diagnostic, their lab results, and he got so accurate he was able to predict death within a couple months.
Wow.
Now, as a result of saying, here are the biomarkers and the factors that are going to contribute towards early death or early onset of these conditions, he was able to take all that data and knowledge and flip that around and provide, good, better good for the people. And so he created Streamline Medical Group, and what really, then he got acquired by 10x. And what sets apart this protocol is a couple things. One, the blood work that people do is substantially more comprehensive than most naturopathic, hormone, functional medicine doctors. And the way in which that he and the medical team interpret the results is also different. The reason I know this is because I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. I went to many gastro and HEPA doctors. I then went to other functional doctors. And I started seeing results not through the medication that the gastro doctors provided. I got off all those and I stopped seeing any of those doctors. I started seeing functional doctors. And along the way, I did glutathione injections. Actually, a nutritionist helped me change some of my diet, which drastically reduced some of my inflammation. But once I did a genetic test with 10x and once I did a blood test with them, I completely put my autoimmune into remission. And so they look at many more biomarkers in the blood than a typical doctor does. And their viewpoint is incredible about how to make adjustments and not just jump at testosterone or jump at, peptides. They'll figure out ways to change your lifestyle, your diet, your exercise, and then oftentimes supplements before they go to hormones, if they can avoid. The other thing that they do that I think is very overlooked is called a methylated genetic test. You have 3,300 genes in your body. All but 5 of them are fixed genes, meaning they'll constitute what color your eyes, your hair, and your skin is. But there are 5 actionable genes. And what this means is they're responsible for how your body converts anything you put into it. So, much like we drill crude oil out of the ground, it goes through this conversion or refinement process to become gasoline so that we can power our cars with it. Same thing happens in our body. We put food in, our body needs to methylate or convert that food into its usable form. And if there are gene breaks in any of these 5 genes, we're not converting that food or those supplements or whatever we put into our body optimally. And this causes mood, mind, and gut related issues, which, as we know, are a massive contributor to the early onset of many conditions and many problems within the body. So by a simple genetic test, a simple cheek swab, seeing the results of the breaks in these 5 genes, we can then say, okay, supplement with these supplements that are right for your genetic breaks, and then optimize your methylation cycle. And this reduces a crazy amount of issues. Even things people didn't realize they had: underlying anxiety, ADHD, gut-related issues, autoimmune, so many different things. I'm not saying it solves all issues because I can't make that claim, but it's crazy what I've seen it do overall and what it's done for myself. So when you mix the genetic test with their super comprehensive blood test, and then you also focus on alkalizing and hyperoxygenating the body, the third part of their pillar, which they call superhuman protocol, you drastically reduce the early onset of conditions from what we've seen, helping people with longevity and really optimizing energy, mental clarity, mood, metabolism, the whole deal. And the final part of their process, what I call superhuman protocol, is magnetism, oxygen, light therapy. They have very high grade equipment that they've developed with some of the best companies out there. It's a PEMF, pulse electromagnetic frequency mat that you lay on. Then you put on 95% pure oxygen, you breathe it down, and then you lay in a red light bed. The most effective red light bed out there, one that penetrates 3.5 inches all the way around. What this does is this separates all your red blood cells, giving you maximum surface area to be able to accept oxygen. Then you flood yourself with oxygen. So your whole system has the oxygen, and then the red light basically pushes the oxygen into your cells, which creates the most possible ATP or energy, which is an optimal state for a human being. Now, if you don't use the equipment, you can kind of do something similar where you go out, you ground yourself on the ground with your shoes off, you do some Wim Hof breath work, and then you get, 30 to 45 minutes of sunlight early in the morning, right when the sun is rising, before you have some of the UV radiation. But those three pillars, their blood work, their genetic test, and their magnetism, oxygen, red light therapy, it's a complete game changer. You become what I consider superhuman. At least that's how I feel from doing all these things.
Is this some of the things that some of the like pro athletes and people like that, super high performers, are doing as well?
All of them. So all professional sports team have red light, PEMF, oxygen, and red light in their locker rooms now. Yeah, it's become a big thing.
What are your thoughts about, you see a lot of people doing like a in-house sauna or in-house cold plunge. You have much experience with those?
Super effective. That I would say is step 4 of this. Um, incredibly effective. Doing a cold plunge in the morning is amazing for your endorphins, for your circulation, mental clarity, energy, mood. You only really need to go in 11 minutes per week, between 44 degrees and 50 degrees. And I really like Andrew Huberman's take on this. He had a really good podcast all about cold plunge. Right now I'm doing it about once or twice a week. I know I need to up my game. I should be doing it 2 or 3.
It's got to be hard waking up in the morning and you get out of bed and getting in an ice cold bath. That's got to be mentally tough.
It's a lot like some of the other changes that we've made with discipline. It's crazy what it does for your mind, and from what I've found, it's actually a little bit addicting. Where if I do it for 3 to 3.5 minutes at 46 degrees, and after I do it, I just feel incredible. My energy and clarity for the rest of the day is so spot on.
Now, when I've done it, it's been, there's a place out in Colorado, Bachelor's Gulch, and it's an awesome fitness area where we go snow skiing, and they kind of have a little sign up that kind of tells you the protocol, and they go, okay, there's a sauna. So they say sauna for like 10 minutes, and then you go to the cold plunge, like up to your thyroid for like at least 60 seconds. So when I do it, I'm like sweating my butt off. So it's not a big deal. And then into the sauna, cold plunge, hot tub. So there's kind of like so I've never done one before where I'm just not like hot and sweating, so that would be tough.
I love that protocol too. I used to do that, the cold and hot, and that has a lot of benefit as well. And sauna is amazing. An easy way to extend your life. When I say extend your life, reduce all-cause mortality by 28% if you are in the sauna 37 minutes per week. So it's easy way to extend your life.
And they had a steam room too, but I know that may be tough for somebody getting one at their house. But I mean, I live in Louisiana, and about 9 months out of the year, you can just go up in your attic and you don't have to pay any money. No, really, you just sit up there. It's 150 degrees,
Wow.
It's freaking hot. So, but yeah. But, so if people want to learn more about, what you do, your coaching, the other things that you do, how do they find out about that?
Instagram is the easiest way. I post all my content there. My Instagram is at Wade Houston. WADE, and Houston, like Texas.
Okay. And there's coaching information. And are you still involved with some of those tests, like the genetic testing or anything like that as well?
Yeah, so I'm still a 10X Health affiliate. I believe in 10X wholeheartedly, even though I'm not, running the company or president anymore.
Right.
They are my doctors, so I still consult with Dr. Sarda and Gary, and they have an amazing affiliate program too for anybody who's interested in health and wellness. They can, you can find more info about that on my page. But anybody who wants to promote optimal health and wellness can become a 10X Health affiliate, and they onboard you, they give you all the training, all the marketing materials, and they'll give you links to the supplements, to the superhuman protocol, to genetic tests, and you can become a 10X affiliate in 30 minutes.
Well, Wade, it was a great connecting with you. I told you that I'd actually kind of seen you in Miami, but I wasn't really sure that was you a few weeks ago. But great connecting with you. Your story's amazing. You're an inspiration. Keep up the good work, and I would like to do this again. I'm sure you'll be, you'll be blowing your coaching program up or have something else. So want to check back in and continue providing value to my group.
I would love that. Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad that we got to connect on this as well.
Absolutely, buddy. Take care.
You as well.